Today we ran for the dates of June 25th through August 19th, 2010. Specialist Blair D. Thompson, United States Army.
This is our life.
Specialist Jarrett C. Plump, United States Army. Private First Class Dominique Terrell Montgomery, United States Army. Corporal Dane Adam Jobier, United States Marine Corps. Staff Sergeant Mark Aaron Mathis, United States Air Force. Specialist Jeremy Charles Fine, United States Army. Private First Class Bryant J. Haynes, United States Army National Guard. Specialist David A. Holmes, United States Army National Guard. Lance Corporal William T. Richards, United States Marine Corps. Sergeant Joseph D. Caskey, United States Marine Corps. Staff Sergeant Eric B. Shaw, United States Army. First Sergeant Christopher D. Chapleau, United States Army. Master Chief Petty Officer Sean Brian Hudson, United States Navy. Corporal Marcus Anthony Darby, United States Army. Specialist Matthew R. Hennigan, United States Army. Sergeant Andrew James Creighton, United States Army. Private First Class Ryan J. Grady, United States Army National Guard. Corporal Larry D. Harris Jr., United States Marine Corps. Private First Class Alan Quinn Yancey, United States Army. Sergeant Johnny W. Lumpkin, United States Army. Private First Class David Jefferson, United States Army. Specialist Morgan M. Macbeth, United States Army.
Captain John Scott Pixley, United States Army. Captain David A. Wisniewski, United States Air Force. Sergeant Jordan E. Tuttle, United States Army National Guard. Sergeant Chase Henry Love, United States Marine Corps. Specialist Charles Caleb Sloan, United States Army. PFC Jacob A. Dennis, United States Army. Specialist Clayton D. McGraw, United States Army. Tech Sergeant William Dwayne Wolf, United States Air Force. Specialist Christopher Langley, United States Army National Guard. Seaman Eric Andrew Nesbitt, United States Navy. Petty Officer 3rd Class Jonathan Lee Sutherland, United States Navy. Specialist Lacey Ann Null, United States Army. PFC Ryan Wade Buckles, United States Army. Corporal Paul Fagundes, United States Marine Corps. Lance Corporal Giovanni Cruz, United States Marine Corps. Staff Sergeant James Matthew Payton Jr., United States Army. Specialist Luis R. Festuca, United States Army. Specialist Keenan A. Cooper, United States Army. PFC Edwin C. Wood, United States Army. Specialist Jared H. Osborne, United States Army. Specialist Christopher F. Kaboki, United States Army. Specialist Roger Lee, United States Army. Staff Sergeant Mark A. Arizman Mendez, United States Army. PFC Michael S. Pridham, United States Army. PFC Anthony W. Simmons, United States Army. Captain Samuel Adam Robertson, United States Air Force. Lance Corporal Adam Thomas Puckett, United States Marine Corps. Chief Petty Officer Pamela Davis, United States Navy. Specialist Jason Alexander Jerome, United States Army. Lance Corporal Daniel G. Rainey, United States Marine Corps. Corporal Paul J. Miller, United States Marine Corps. Joseph Whitting DeMock II, United States Army. Staff Sergeant Samuel Conley Duggan, United States Army. Specialist Carlos J. Negron, United States Army.
Sergeant Sean M. Midler, United States Army. Sergeant Donald R. Edgerton, United States Army. Staff Sergeant Jesse W. Ainsworth, United States Army. Specialist Robert W. Crow, United States Army National Guard. Lance Corporal Tyler A. Rose, United States Marine Corps. Petty Officer First Class Abdul Rahim Shabazz, United States Navy. Chief Petty Officer Michael Dean Kennedy, United States Navy. Second Lieutenant Mark Jason Pinsek, United States Army. Captain Arnell Ray Albano, United States Army. Airman First Class Amanda Jordan Jotham, United States Air Force. Airman First Class Brandon Scott McDonald, United States Air Force. Staff Sergeant Christopher J. Antonic, United States Marine Corps. Private First Class Nathaniel D. Garvin, United States Army. Staff Sergeant Craig Jerome Sadler, United States Marine Corps. Specialist Jonathan Michael McDonald, United States Army. Specialist Christopher J. Moon, United States Army. Sergeant Felix Antonio Cepeda, United States Army. Staff Sergeant Sheldon Leon Tate, United States Army. Staff Sergeant Christopher Todd Stout, United States Army. First Lieutenant Christopher Schultz Goke, United States Army. Specialist Matthew J. Johnson, United States Army. Specialist Chase Stanley, United States Army. Private Brandon M. King, United States Army. Sergeant Zachary M. Fisher, United States Army. Specialist Joseph Andrew Bauer, United States Army. Specialist Jesse D. Reed, United States Army. Corporal Joseph Cason Lowry Jr., United States Marine Corps. Petty Officer First Class James A. Beamer, United States Navy. Sergeant First Class Vincent Gines, United States Army. Sergeant First Class John H. Gerald, United States Army. Sergeant Lesson M. Winters, United States Army. Sergeant Jesse R. Tilton, United States Army. Colonel Mark Joseph Matashima, United States Air Force. Corporal Dave M. Santos, United States Marine Corps.
Staff Sergeant Justice S. Bartlett, United States Marine Corps. Petty Officer Second Class Oscar A. Avila Mendoza, United States Navy. Petty Officer First Class Tyler Savangni Simpson, United States Navy. Sergeant Edgar Salvador Ramirez, United States Army. Sergeant First Class Malone P. Hoyle Jr., United States Army. Sergeant Matthew M. Weaker, United States Army. Colonel Larry J. Richards, United States Marine Corps. Sergeant Cruz Xavier Sanaguac, United States Army. Sergeant Anibal Santiago, United States Army. Sergeant Justin B. Allen, United States Army. First Lieutenant Robert N. Benedson, United States Army. Tech Sergeant Lambert Urban Hartle III, United States Air Force. Corporal Joe L. Reitzman, United States Marine Corps. Gunnery Sergeant Christopher L. Eastman, United States Marine Corps. Sergeant D'Angelo R. Hudkins, United States Army. Staff Sergeant Brian F. Piercy, United States Army. Corporal Paul J. Miller, United States Marine Corps. Lieutenant Carmen Anna Reckers, United States Navy. Corporal Julio Vargas, United States Marine Corps. Private First Class Eric P. Neatfeld, United States Marine Corps. Petty Officer First Class Maurice Elwood Warner, United States Navy. First Lieutenant Michael L. Runyon, United States Army. Sergeant First Class J. Merrill Glick, United States Army. Major James M. Weiss, United States Marine Corps. Lieutenant Colonel Mario D. Carrazzo, United States Marine Corps. Petty Officer Second Class Stephen Lee Rodriguez, United States Navy. Private First Class James J. Oquin, United States Army. Petty Officer Third Class, Jared Newlove, United States Navy. Petty Officer Second Class, Justin McNeely, United States Navy. Specialist Andrew Hand, United States Army. Staff Sergeant Conrad A. Mora, United States Army. Sergeant Daniel Lim, United States Army. Airman Robert Anthony Hasley, United States Air Force.
Lance Corporal Frederick E. Vasquez, United States Marine Corps. Specialist Terry Second, United States Army. Staff Sergeant Tate Harris, United States Army. Staff Sergeant Crystal Melissa Ballard, United States Air Force. Lance Corporal Abraham L. Howard, United States Marine Corps Reserves. Staff Sergeant Matthew Lee, United States Army. Major Aaron Wallace Malone, United States Air Force. Captain Jeffrey A. Hill, United States Air Force. Sergeant Major Thomas Eric Cicado, United States Air Force. Major Michael Freeholz, United States Army National Guard. Sergeant John L. Sutherland, United States Army. Specialist Raymond Allen York, United States Army. Sergeant Carl R. Warren, United States Army. Captain Jason E. Obro, United States Army. Staff Sergeant Bradley Dale Penman, United States Army. Lance Corporal Shane R. Martin, United States Marine Corps. Private First Class Renee David Asiniega, United States Army. Specialist Michael L. Stansbury, United States Army. Sergeant Carl B. Stout, United States Army. Private First Class Shantae Dominique Fligel, United States Marine Corps. Sergeant Luis Eduardo Brito, United States Army. Sergeant Leo Gigario Gabriel Izarraga, United States Army. Master Sergeant Andrew Ken Child, United States Air Force. Lieutenant Colonel John Robert Withrow, United States Air Force. Private First Class Ryan Charles Heffernan, United States Army. Colonel Drew Allen Briner, United States Army. Corporal David James Stidman, United States Marine Corps. Specialist Sergeant First Class Kevin Russell Johnson, United States Army. Colonel David Graham Burris, United States Army. Specialist Cody J. Moore, United States Army. Master Sergeant Alst Jared Neville Van, United States Army. Master Sergeant Gerald N. Van Alst, United States Army. Airman First Class Keith Mitchell Homestead Jr., United States Air Force.
Gunny Sergeant Jason Stephen Burrows, United States Marine Corps. Private First Class John E. Andre, United States Army. Sergeant Carl Peter Markovic, United States Army. Sergeant Ellis Warren Brown, Jr., United States Army. Specialist Faith R. Hinckley, United States Army. Private First Class Vincent E. Gamone, III, United States Marine Corps. Corporal Max W. Donahue, United States Marine Corps. Lance Corporal Kevin M. Cornelius, United States Marine Corps. Petty Officer Third Class Grant Thomas Furman, United States Navy. Specialist Howard Leroy Brooks, II, United States Army. Captain Stephen Rex Galladay, United States Army. Specialist Clarence Michael McLaughlin, United States Army. Private First Class Bradley D. Rapoon, United States Army. Sergeant Andrew C. Nickel, United States Army. Private First Class Paul O. Bazuga, United States Army. Major Jeffrey Allen Martin, United States Air Force. Corporal Christopher D. Greer, United States Marine Corps Reserve. Command Sergeant Major Wayne Alva Foz, United States Army. Staff Sergeant Joseph Anthony Villaseno, United States Air Force. Sergeant Jose L. And they said it outside. Sanze. Please help me.
Lugo.
Oh, then I'm ahead. Sons the Third, United States Marine Corps. Lieutenant Commander Richard T. Allen, United States Navy. Corporal Timothy Joel Yulee, United States Marine Corps. Private Second Class Stephen Andrew Young, United States Army. Sergeant Christopher N. Karch, United States Army. Sergeant Bradford Lee Miller, United States Army. Sergeant Karen Elizabeth Herrera, United States Army. Staff Sergeant Michael A. Bach, United States Marine Corps. Private First Class Justin Ray Walker, United States Army. Specialist Felipe Ramirez, United States Army. Lance Corporal Travis Floyd Marino, United States Marine Corps. Lieutenant Commander James Edward Babcock II, United States Navy. Sergeant Major James Clark Spold, United States Army. Specialist Jamal M. Rett, United States Army. Corporal Richard Allen Elagawa, United States Marine Corps.
Specialist Dustin James Knapp, United States Army. Master Sergeant Fatua Tia Diaz, United States Army. Private Charles M. Hyde IV, United States Army. Sergeant First Class Edgar N. Roberts, United States Army. Staff Sergeant Derek J. Farley, United States Army. Private First Class Benjamin G. Chisholm, United States Army. Sergeant William Francis Gaddis, United States Army. Major Elliot Mora, United States Marine Corps. Lance Corporal Kevin E. Oratowski, United States Marine Corps. Chief Petty Officer Colin Trent Thomas, United States Navy. Specialist Eric Donald Spurgeon, United States Army. Sergeant Martin A. Lugo, United States Army. Specialist Christopher S. Wright, United States Army. Corporal Christopher J. Boyd, United States Marine Corps.
209 names, over 53 individual dates of death. You do the math. One of the things that we do when we close the reading of our names is we give an opportunity room to mention anyone that they may know. It could be a loved one, it could be a relative, a distant relative, it could be a neighbor, it could be a comrade, someone they served with. It doesn't matter, any generation. One of the things that we have found is that to call a name out loud is a little bit different than just holding it in your heart. To be able to stand up and say a name that sometimes hasn't been mentioned for years because most of us just keep those down. So if there's anyone in the room that would like to say a name out loud before we close, I give you that opportunity, no pressure, don't be shy, but if there's someone who would like to say someone's name out loud in any generation who did not read tonight, please just let me know before we close. I'm not going to call anybody out, there's plenty in the room.
Staff Sergeant Dustin Whitaker.
Branch of service,
Army.
National Guard.
anyone else? Yes, sir.
Joseph Everett Stevenson III, USMC.
Okay. Anyone else? Any generation? No? We just bow our heads? Go ahead, no, go ahead, sir.
Howard Brady, U.S. Army, and Fred Brady, U.S. Navy.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
Lester Weber, United States Marine Corps.
Walk with it, you guys already honored him, Ryan Wilker.
Thank you.
United States
Anyone else?
Specialist Aaron Tappan, United States Army, who swear I will today.
Thank you.
Max Corporal Bo McGee, United States Marine.
Thank you.
Lance Corporal Joseph Ray Clark, United States Marines.
We'll just take a moment of silence to reflect on those names that we read, those that were spoken, and those that still remain inside. Amen. Will you all be waiting to eat, please?
George, may I introduce Becky Johnson, everybody? Becky would like to sing the national anthem for us.
Oh, wonderful.
Can you see by the dawn's early light how proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, but stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight. O'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets were clear, the bombs bursting in air. They proved through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, trust that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
That concludes our evening tonight here at the Knights of Columbus. That's backers, I know. They hosted us tonight. Thank you for joining us. We apologize for the change of the mix-up at the end. We had a little change of responsibilities at the end. But thanks again. Join us tomorrow at 7 a.m. We'll be out there running, and you have a wonderful evening. Thanks again.